full of outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Education Tonight. Normally, Adam does the intro, so I'm going to do the intro, and the mute button can be pushed at any time if I do veer off into Brent world. I do apologize. I have had an open evening tonight. I've talked to lots of parents who happen to be ex-pupils, which is pretty shocking, and I've had lots of coffee, muffins, and I've had that buzz. You know, when you get with a parents' evening or you get an open evening, we've had, you've got that second wind, and you're sort of, I know later on after the show I'm probably going to crash. But luckily, thankfully, tomorrow's an inset, which is very clever of my senior management to put an inset after an open day. But we were going until pretty much 7 o'clock tonight, and we finished about 1:30 today. And it's just always important how important it's stressful. Like, we need the children to come in, we need to put your fresh foot forward, we need to sell the school. And there's part of me thinks it's a really good thing because I'm proud of the school of teaching. But there's another part of me thinking, well, it's just the way education is now. We're in competition with all the schools for bums on seats. It's sad to me that's what education's become, PR and selling your school, when really you shouldn't have to sell your school. Schools should be a bit closer together. But that's where we're at in education at the moment. The open evenings are now part of it. You see schools advertising the back of buses. You see schools advertising the local media. And the people who are PR now every school seems to have a PR person, a multimedia platform person, a Twitter handle, a Facebook, and it's all presenting a certain image of the school on brand for some schools as well. So part of me thinks, well, it's good to have the face-to-face with some future parents and build those connections with them. But equally, it's part and parcel of what we're doing with schools now. So how are you feeling, Leanne?
Yeah, I'm good. My PPA is on a Thursday afternoon, so unlike you, I had a bit of an easier day today. But I like you said, I like a good old-fashioned connection where you're face-to-face, across a table from someone having a chat. I think a nice old Twitter feed is nice for school, get a bit of imagery out there, but I like a good old-fashioned chit-chat at the door.
And it's good, isn't it? It's nothing better than, even as a parent, when I was looking for schools for my own child, and there was really a choice between two schools. There's not much to, and when you read the Ofsted report, there's nothing much to them. But what really swung it for us, the school that we went with, was the connections of just how would it work logistically, and the wraparound care, and just literally, it was little things that you notice about the school. How clean, for me, the caretaker was taking pride in the amount of leaves he was sweeping up, and it's just the small things. And of course, I, being a teacher, was checking under the table. I checked under the tables for chewing gum. I checked. Yeah, I did. And I went in to have a look at the toilets, and I thought, well, how clean are the toilets? And then suddenly you think to yourself, what am I doing here? But it's just the impression you get as there are broken windows. How cared for me was the school building, and that's the broken window. But if the school looks, not cared for, then I always think, well, the environment doesn't look cared for, the children don't look cared for, and it's not about how new the buildings are. You can have, this is a Victorian building my children are taught in, but a Victorian building is well looked after and sort of has a bit of love, and how the classroom is presented, how bright it is, and how much the teacher, I think, invested in the classroom can give you a little clue, can it, to how well I think the children are looked after, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
you'd appreciate that as a primary school teacher, wouldn't you?
Yes, I spent 2 days in my classroom in the summer making it look pretty. So,
because,
but I think even like you say, in the old Victorian school, you get atmosphere, and that's created by the school and by the people in it. And then also you like when you walk into a school, you feel community. In some schools, you can feel a sense of community, and you can feel like a good, warm atmosphere. And so,
and it's just in the subtle things when you ask, like staff turnover. You say, well, if staff turnover is high, I mean, it's obvious I get wheeled out. They sort of wheel me back out every year and go, yeah, this guy's been here a long length of time. It must be all right. And you get parents saying, why have you stayed here that long? I like it here. Oh, that's unusual. But it's not. When you feel like you are part of something, you feel that you are part of a community, when you make connections with parents, and it's always lovely yeah, like parents even. I'm sitting there with some parents and I'm looking at the other side of the desk and thinking, well, you used to be on that other side of the desk.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice because then they trust you and they know you, and then they feel, well, I'm sending my child here because I went here, and you get that connection to community. And I think schools have lost some of that. They've lost that connection because they're on brand and they're all about the logo, they're all about the uniform, they're all about whatever their rules are. And this week, usually the couple of weeks around when people go back to school, the local medias up and down the country are full of my child's been sent home because they're wearing the wrong skirt. My child's been sent home because of this haircut policy. My child's been sent home because they have the wrong shoes. And I think what it makes a parent reach the point, the first thing they do is go to local press and go, I'm unhappy with my school. So the first thing I'm going to do is go and tell how bad that school is.
Yeah.
What kind of relationship are you going to have afterwards? Are you the parent who went to the media and completely run the school down? I mean, it's bad when it gets that bad. And I often think to myself, there's two sides to that. But you always say to that person, if you don't want to come to our school and you want to obey our rules, then fine. You know what I mean? We're not running Starbucks.
Every school has a door.
And that's exactly fine. The same goes with staff, isn't it? The same applies to staff as well, doesn't it? When you sort of come into it, you come into a school, you feel welcome, you feel wanted, you stay there, don't you? And then equally, I think that's what's been happening. If you don't feel wanted and welcomed, I think some schools now have been a bit like that, where they've sort of said to people, get corporate or get out. When you look at our recruitment retention, which is going to bring me on to recruitment retention, I think many's a good person to be driven out of education because they haven't fitted, and they've been told, haven't they? They've been told, we don't do things like that any longer. This is the way it's going to be. If you don't like it, there's the door.
Yeah.
And I think because they have come in and they've said, this is the school from now on, it's going that direction. And if you don't like it, tough. And I don't think they've brought some communities along. So I'm buzzing because tonight I talked to potential parents of children who I'm going to potentially teach. And I see it like a preemptive parents evening, because they might come to me next year and say, I remember you on open day. I'm glad. And you make those connections, don't you?
Yeah, that's why I think like standing on the door, like I have a trainee teacher and I'm just like standing on the door is like so important. And especially like when the kids do something really nice, like I'm really excited to see the parent on the door at the end of the day. And I even said, like, it's like you said with social media, and it's like they always say that there's the power of social media. But then I think if you flip it, some parents like the power that they get from using social media.
They do.
It's like you said, if you don't want your child in the school and you don't like the rules, then you can leave. Why would you want to bring the school down and keep your child in the school if you're that unhappy? Why not just take your child?
They use it as leverage, don't they? They use it as a bullying power thing.
Yeah.
I mean, love JBL's comment here. Look, I did open house Sunday for 18 years in an American school in Florida. All right, just do you get in your Florida. Wow, what's that? It was our chance to show parents how proud we are and what we do and what we offer. Love that, absolutely. And I love those days equally. You know, I love those open days. I mean, they drain you. Same as parents' evenings. You go into it and say, well, it's going to be a draining. But I think if you invest the time into things like that, if a parent's thinking to themselves, I might complain about this member of staff, for instance, they might less likely to complain or less likely to take it further, because they might just ring you up and say, I think, Mr. Poland, you've got that wrong. And then you have to go, I think I might have got that wrong. And then you get forgiven because you have that relationship. And equally, it goes the other way as well. When you ring the parent and say, look, I'm not happy. And they'll go, yeah, because they trust you. It's trust, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing I can't understand with multi-academy trusts have the word like trust in their title. And I don't know if they're actually trusted more than your traditional school was 25, 30 years ago, because all of this media stuff is telling us that there is that social contract being eroded. So I know it's one of those open evenings, but actually afterwards you walk away thinking, I've talked to potential future parents and I'd be happy to have them at my school, because equally some of them are saying, I'd love to have our child come to the school. And I'm going, good, I'd love to have the fact that you like the fact that your child would come here. And I want parent to go like, well, my child get into the school, and I hope that they do. And they go, well, what do you mean? Because the fact is, you really want your child to come here, meaning you already buy into what we're offering. And I know that parent's going to be more supportive because they've already kind of gone and said, I want to be here, as opposed to it's the school down the road, this will do. And like
you're not going to get that from an advert on a bus, are you?
Well, you know, you might could say I've seen your advertisement and say, oh, I've been swayed by stirring, but it is habit, isn't it? You see schools now, newspapers advertising on buses and billboards.
Shiny, how shiny our school is.
But
Look at
spending a lot,
the fabulous microscope that you'll use in our school.
but it is, isn't it? It is literally like a form of marketing, isn't it? Schools are marketing, and yet, and the thing, the best advantage we had today was to have our children who stayed behind after school show the parents around, and every time, because, and I remember I went to that school 21 years ago for my interview. And what sealed it is the kids who took me around. I asked them all the awkward questions. Was it really like, go on, tell me, you can tell me. And they were brutally honest. They were like, here's a science teacher. He's a bit crazy. He wears socks and sandals. Okay. And you know, I stopped in a window, and the window was about Jubilee 2000, which is Drop the Debt campaign. And I questioned about that. And I thought, this is what I did my dissertation on. Tell me about that. And they told me, we're doing fundraising for people disadvantaged around the world. I'm like, whoa, stop there. Tell me more about that. And it was the fact that the pupils were telling me, and they were proud of their school. And yeah, they were like, okay, this is our PE department. The facilities aren't brilliant, but we've got good PE lessons. And I thought, okay, the facilities aren't brilliant, but they're still proud of what their school does with the facilities they have. Not saying, oh gosh, you know, here's a PE gym, it's horrible. They were basically, yeah, we know our PE gym is not the best in the world, but you know what? Our PE department's a good department because the people in there are good, you know. And it was that they sort of thought, well, that's really important because the kids themselves wanted to be there. The kids themselves liked their school. And one of them was actually quite a roguish kid. He wasn't whose child I'm currently teaching behind you, which is weird about it. But I remember that and say, you know, you took me around. I spoke to him recently, the parents, and you know, you took me around this school when I started the school.
No way.
I remember that. And I goes, do you remember some of the stuff he said to me? He goes, yeah, I think I might have got into trouble for being too honest.
Oh no.
I'm not joking. He was brutally honest. And that was the selling point.
That's like the waiters on Kitchen Nightmares. Sometimes they're like, yeah, don't have the pizza. It's terrible.
Yeah, just stay away from the fish.
Yeah.
Right. We better do an ad. So we're sponsored by 3 sponsors, which is absolutely fantastic. We have excellent sponsors. We have Reading Solutions, we have John Catt, and we have Future and Careers. So we'll start with Future and Careers. They provide a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging our 14 to 19 years old, key stage 3, 4, and 5, isn't it, to pursue careers in STEM and SHAPE. And I did ask what SHAPE is. That's obviously to do with art and to do with the technical stuff, which is really good, one of the brand new sort of aspects. They help teachers show their students what they can aim for and how. And they have articles, activity sheets, animations, podcasts, and all the resources are aligned with the Gatsby benchmarks, which are free to download. So you'll find them at futurecareers.com, and you can subscribe to those guys. And then, of course, we've got our old favorite, John Catt, which Adam and I would go, hello, John. And they're our partner, and they've always been a very good partner for us. And they publish professional development and books and resources that support great teaching and learning around schools, and a really good way to level up your professional development and get some CPD. And of course, you can also use our John Catt code, which is JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. And you can get that at johncat2tsbookshop.com. And of course, we're also sponsored by Reading Solutions. We all know how important reading is, but Reading Solutions is the home of Dreambox Reading Plus. It's an online reading development program which creates stronger readers in our school, especially in Key Stage 2 and beyond, up to GCSE. And using Reading Plus is evidence-based, adaptive technology, and it really accurately assesses students' skills gaps and places them on personalized learning pathways. So it's all about the personalized learning, what's built around them to accelerate their strengths and improve on their areas for development. We've got a 4-week trial pilot program that you can try, and you can search for Reading Solutions UK, find the website, and request your free pilot. So that is our awesome sponsors, which brings us on to the little story that I'm going to start with tonight. And there's a little story about the story. Are you ready? So we had our history TTR event, which was great. They gave me a mic in 10 minutes, and basically I went off and did my thing and told off some of the best writers of history books ever. John D. Clare, John Catt, and Aaron Wilkes. You were amazing. And it was some brilliant presenters. I felt massive imposter syndrome. I really did. I was in a room of top historians, people who are luminaries, people whose textbooks I've been using for 20 odd years. And I'm sharing a room with them, and then look up and see Tom at the top with a big smile on his face, and the banter was great. It was a great event. If you want to watch that and play it back, please do if you're an historian. But the teach meets are fantastic. There's another one coming up for Modern Foreign Language. Fully recommend them. It was my first teach meet, and I'm just ashamed that it took me so long to go to one, but it took me to speak at one to probably get the courage to do it. But I got up and did my presentation after others. But there were other presentations by impressive young professionals, people who have just newly qualified teachers. And I was in awe of a couple of those presentations from people only starting out in the profession. So afterwards, we went and had a few shandies in Manchester with some of the presenters. And we got talking to some of the presenters who were in different stages of career, and talking to some of the younger presenters, came up in conversation about the debt and about the financial sort of situation and the difference, the generational difference, which then started the conversation of, right, okay, I went to university, working class, similar. Some of the young educators were saying, look, I want to be in teaching because I want to make a difference. I believe in social mobility. I'm the first of my generation to get through university. So people, we want an education who are driven, motivated, because they believe in the power and the value of education as a leveling up, ironic, a leveling up. And that was me looking at the window 20 odd years ago, idealistically going, I want to see myself, people like myself, go through the system and start to get through the system. So it's getting those educators coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, becoming educators themselves. That makes sense. And what sort of struck me is that there was a window of opportunity opened up in the 90s, early 2000s for people like me to do that. Because, and please don't hate me if you are a little bit younger than me and below, please don't. I got a grant to go to university, so £3,000. That meant I got paid to go to university, of which I am not going to lie, I discovered 70p vodkas. I think my record was 36 days in a row. Yeah. Different time, different generation. Sorry about that. I also
I might have to go now. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm not even finished yet. It gets worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. So I got paid to go to uni. I had access to a student loan of £1.5 grand, of which I accepted and bought myself a nice suit, and a plane ticket to America for the summer. No tuition fees.
Didn't buy resources for your classroom then.
I had no tuition fees. So no tuition fees, £3,000 and £1,500 loan as well, which I optionally took or could not take. I took it anyway. And I had a part-time job, which worked at a supermarket. And my total debt after 5 years, 4 years at university for my first primary degree, and then 1 year from PGCE, was £9,500. Now, when I left uni in 2004 to 2003, it was £9,500. The equivalent now would be roughly £17,000 or £18,000. That's what the equivalent would be. However, the average house price at that stage was right about 120 grand. Average house price now is nearly £300,000. So you're talking 2.5 times nearly in house prices. The debt now, when one of the teachers said they actually checked on their phone and went, I'm going to check how much. I think it's 80 odd grand, 88,000.
Oh my God.
And so they're in £88,000. Their average house price to buy a house is nearly 300,000. I was in about 18, 19 grand in equivalent terms, average house price 120 grand. When I qualified, my wage was £18,000, double that now. That's nearly £36,000. So when they're crowing about, oh, we'll put new teachers on 30 grand, we'll put them on 30 grand as if it's brilliant, it's still 6 grand lower than it was when I started in 2003, 2004. So even that's not at the same level as what I got. Plus, I had less debt. Plus, it was cheaper to buy a house. So your cumulative effect is a working class teacher like myself coming along 20 years later is 88 grand in debt, can't afford to buy a house, and is going to then have saddled with student loan repayments that will then discourage them from buying a house even more, because they won't have the bank of mum and dad. They won't have that, working class educator who's come from families, first generation. It's not as if their parents are going to have a pot of money to say, here's 20 grand, go off and buy your first house. They don't have that advantage. So you then say, what is the problem with some of our recruitment and retention? Well, some of the problem with our recruitment and retention is some people can't afford to go into teaching because they have massive amount of debt they've racked up. And even when they start paying off that debt, it will delay their entry into the property market. So you have a situation, no wonder we have a recruitment retention problem. It's then brought me to the news story that we found, which I found during the week, which was they're looking potentially at the situation where they would pay back after 10 years loan repayments. In other words, your student loan, if you stay and teach it long enough, would actually be repaid, which was the policy between 1998 and 2004. And I have colleagues who are still teaching with me who were English graduates, got the £4,000 golden hello and had their student loans paid off up until 2004. So my cohort who went into education, not only did they have all those things, some of them even had their student loans paid off as they went into teaching. And they got a 4,000 golden hello.
But you know what I found as well? Like, you talk about all the debt and the loans. I did a PGCE. So mostly it's a year of teaching. You get like 6 weeks of lectures, but most of the time you're teaching. And by the end, you're pretty much the full-time class teacher. And so it's like, in what other degree do you have to kind of buy, not that you have to buy things for your classroom, but for the most part, majority of us do. So you have a loan, you have debt that you're finishing with, then you're going into a job where you really need to buy, not need, what's the right word? I don't know. A lot of us buy stuff.
Yeah, we do it because we care, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You care, you want it to look nice, you want it to be a nice aesthetic for the kids. And like, there's an image on Instagram, it must be old, I don't know, where it's like government funded classroom, teacher funded classroom. It's like, you don't want an Instagram classroom, but you do want it to look nice, and you do have to buy a few bits and bobs here and there. Kind of feel like if you want that, so you're already in debt, and then you're going into a job. And I was like, in my first year, I was buying way too many resources, and as time's gone by,
You're shopping a lot in the works.
You know, I go to charity shops, Brent.
Did you? Oh, get you, you resourceful bunny, you. Yeah. I love going. I love going to works. Works was my thing. And I go to works, and I did reception for I did a reception for a couple of years. So I would go in and be like, oh, I can do stuff with all of this stuff. Love it. But wherever shop you're going to, you're still spending your own money, and very rarely do you get it back. Like, you know, some schools will give you it back, but it's quite rare. So you're in debt, you've got loans, and you're spending money on a job. I just think, what other job? Isn't it?
The people go into Canary Wharf with like a pack of printer paper. There's no
a doctor going into a surgery and bringing his own medicine with him.
Exactly, his own needles and his own. No, there's no other comparable job where there's just none. And like, we were going to talk about PPA, and I also like, it's the only job where you've got to do work, so you can do the work, and then after you do the work, you have more work.
I saw that one recently, isn't it? There's a really good tweet about that saying,
no, work.
Yeah, and it is. And the thing is, you can, if people have a go at the current generation, and what worries me is that the educator I met the other night, Faye, was exactly the type of person we need in education. Driven, motivated. And the funny thing is, they were discussing whether they should go to abroad. And they were tempted to go over to the Middle East. The problem was they didn't feel it was compatible with them personally and their values. And they didn't think, you know, I'm not doing that. I want to stay here. I want to make a difference. I felt so horrible and guilty about it. Says, right, I'm going to the bar and buying you a drink. You deserve a drink. From my generational guilt kicked in. Like, remember, I don't come from a privileged background. My parents were, you know, dad's a plasterer, mom's a housewife. You know, we grew up in a council estate. But I got the chance. That's the thing. I got an opportunity. I got a chance. And in 97, you heard the mortal words, education, education. There was an open door and a window of opportunity for a generation of teachers like me who, although it was still tough, don't get me wrong, we got the opportunity to come into teaching, and financially, yeah, you know, my wage has been frozen since 2010. So I've been disadvantaged in some aspects. At the same time, I was able to enter the property market and get on the property market, whereas a younger professional coming behind me isn't. And it is that thing about, you want the next generation to be better off, don't we? We want the children we're teaching to be better off. I want my children to have a better off life than I had. In the same way that my parents sacrificed and did a lot to push me through education to make me have a better life than they did. That's what we want. We want the country to be better off. We want our kids to be better off. And I don't see that happen. I think there's a massive regression, because I am the classic example of that regression. Because I look at myself and say, if I was coming along now, would I be able to go into teaching? And equally, would I stay in that community I've stayed in for 21 years? Or would I be pulled over to the United Arab Emirates? Would I be pulled over to Australia, New Zealand, Canada? And looking at myself now and thinking, I probably would have left after a couple of years, because I would have said, right, the student loans nonsense. I'm not going to pay it back, so I'm going to stay over there for another 15 years. You know, and you can do that. I think you can
like in that respect, it's like life is too easy nowadays. I feel like for some kids, you know, everything's instantaneous. You know, when we grew up, to entertain yourself, you really had to think, and you had to be creative, and you had to, it's like perseverance, isn't it? Do a puzzle or find a way to, I don't know. My cousin and I used to make up dance shows on a Friday night for the family, because there wasn't an iPad to sit and watch, or like an iPad to sit and play games on forever. So it's like instant and easy, I feel like. It's just like a different generation coming up now.
Yeah.
Different skill sets.
And it is, and you don't want to belittle and sort of, it's that thing about you got to evolve, you got to teach the generation you're teaching, and you got to embrace new ideas. And some ideas you embrace, and some ideas you go, oh, that's pants. Like deliberate practice. Who come up with the idea of deliberate practice? We've been doing that since Socrates. So somebody's made a big fad out of deliberate practice, as if it's like, wow, new hands-up question. I love these people come along and they come up with this type of stuff. And you go, wow, never realized that one.
Like retrieval practice.
I mean, what's that? It's just knowledge based.
Practice. It is. It's a bit of like rote learning as well, isn't it? It's like we're going to remember all these facts.
My physics teacher used to say this. He used to say to me, and I never forget. He says, "I'm going to keep revising with you guys," because he says if you throw enough mud at the wall, eventually some of it sticks. That's what he said to me about 35 years ago. And obviously he was an educational genius, or he hit upon the idea that he knew that memory gets more and more, more and more frequent the more you hear something, which basically is the reason why we remember Christmas songs, but not much else. And I always say to the kids, why do you remember Christmas songs? Because you hear them every Christmas. And away you go. Why is that? Because the song's both irritating, but you constantly hear it for about 2 or 3 months over a season, and it gets refreshed and refreshed. Well, it's not rocket science, but there is a stock and trade of education out there. People who think we're teaching these children different, and that always annoys me. Like, we've never had neurodivergent children before. Of course we had.
Yeah,
we've neurodivergent children. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
People just want everything their way, and they want it their way to their specification. So I think it goes back to that thing about Starbucksy, and that goes back to the difficulty of the job, because I've never worked as hard as a professional, and I've never had to evolve more. Whereas I think my auntie, classic example, she left teaching in she was 25 years teaching. She was in her mid to late 40s. I think she was 2 or 3 years older than I am now, and she was retired and she was finished. And could retire on that. And equally, she's honest with me and says, now she couldn't cope with it. We're having to cope with things we've never had to cope before, to teach in ways there've never been, with scrutiny that's so high. And then you couple that with the lack of financial reward, the lack of respect, the massive amount of debt, and you've got people saying, why is there a recruitment retention problem? Because you've made the job difficult financially, you've made the job difficult socially, and you've just made us so accountable for things that are so out of our sphere of influence. And in the meantime, those of us who are left are decorating our own classrooms, putting buckets on bitumen in our own roofs, because we care about the process of educating.
Yeah, and like looking for strategies to help kids, but we don't know what we're trying to help. Yeah, and it's like we're teaching. It's like old skills with new names, because everything in every business, right? It's like a cycle. I mean, I worked in events management before, and I was there, and then like the management changed, and we went back to doing things the way we did it when the management had changed before. So it's like teaching is still a business, is still, making money. It's just going round in circles, like the pedagogy. And sometimes new pedagogy does come in and it works very well. And other times it's just like same pedagogy, different name, or it's come to the forefront now. Especially I feel like retrieval practice has come to the forefront now because everything is instant. And it's like, kids' memories are maybe not what they used to be like in the 90s when I was a kid, because it wasn't instantaneous and you did have to remember facts.
Correct.
And you have to remember things. And even nowadays, kids are like, well, why do I need to remember? I can just Google it. So what if your phone's dead? Or if you don't have a phone?
But you remember your own parents' phone number.
Memory.
Do you remember your parents' phone number growing up?
Yeah, I learned it at school. Yeah. I remember
And your
learning it.
best friends. And your best friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you had to. I remember going down to a telephone box and putting in my girlfriend about 16, 17 and her number off by heart, dropping in the 10p's, dial, and you knew the numbers off by heart. You knew things because you had to work hard to retain that.
Yeah.
But we've never had known more about the science of learning, but we're more responsible for learning. But yet the people responsible for the learning are less motivated to learn because everything's too easy, and yet we're the ones responsible for it. Why is the long-term memory problem with these children? I see them 1 or 2 hours a week. What do you want me to do? Rewire their brain when the whole of society's pulling in that way? But it's my fault if they have a short-term memory problem. Come on.
In primary now, there's a lot of discussion around in the afternoon when you teach topic like history and geography, and it's like, do you just teach all your history for that half term in a week? Or do you do history on a Monday and geography on a Tuesday? Just like on the Monday, you've taught history. Let's say you teach, I don't know, we're doing knights and castles. Let's say you taught how to become a knight. And then the next Monday, 7 days later, and you're like, so can anyone tell me what we learned last Monday? And the kids are like,
I know.
Was anyone in the lesson?
They tell us at secondary that they don't teach this stuff at primary. And I think I said this before. I went and grabbed their exercise books from primary. Some of the kids who come to my school.
Yeah.
I grabbed their exercise books from their teachers who I'd actually taught. And says, right, these kids are telling us that you're not teaching this. I sent them the history lessons. So I know the kids have done these history lessons. Yeah. And I know they've done them because I have their exercise books. And the best thing is, this kid was like, that's not how my work is, sir. You know what? Just hold on a second here. What's the last lesson I taught you in history about using evidence to win a point of view? Let me show you my evidence. Primary evidence here. Your exercise from last year.
That's brilliant.
just went, and I went, sir, the next pupil of mine has taught you that. Those lessons were mine. So the lessons I'm giving you today were revision lessons of what you were taught last year, and you're pretending you don't know. The kids just like drained like that and went, I'm teaching you about the evidence of history. Here's the evidence. Here's Exhibit A, which is your actual exercise book. Tell me why your exercise book is neater last year than this year. You've come up to secondary school and you've got worse. Not a chance, Sonny Jim. And the rest of them just like, and goes, not messing around with him. He knows what. And it was just like the power was then really, I know what you know. You know how clever you are, and you think you're going to get one over me. Don't try it. But that's what they do. They pretend, oh, I can't do that, sir. It's really difficult. Take it easy. Because that's what happened. And probably snowplow parents have done that to them. My child can't struggle to cook. I tell you what, if they were starving enough, they'd learn how to cook. You know what I mean? And this is what we do. We make things so accessible and so easy because we're so like worried that somebody walks into my class and says kids aren't getting it.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. When you get observed, you ask specific kids questions because you're like, I know she'll know the answer.
Whether they don't get it reflects on you. So what we do is we make sure they get it, but what we do is disarm the process of them getting it because we're worried and stressed that they don't get it. It somehow reflects on my teaching practice. Which brings me to JBL, what he said there is absolutely true. He's been doing the same stuff in the 80s. Yeah. The art of teaching hasn't changed all that much since Socrates in certain aspects. You know, what was he all about? Questioning. Did Socrates have a no hands up questioning or questioning? Who cares if he had no hands up questioning or questioning? He was questioning full stop. So we can put a new hands up questioning, no hands up questioning policy. But I have issues with that because there are children, you turn around and have no hands up questioning, they don't want to speak in class. But now we're having to say to some children, speak, and they just freeze.
But you know what? There's the opposite. Like in my lesson the other day, there's one kid was like super excited about it, and she was like bursting to tell me. So there's that side, and I was quite shy and quiet as well, and I probably wouldn't have wanted to speak or sometimes didn't know the answer. But then there's the flip side of kids that are going to sit there like, oh, I really want to answer. I really know the answer. So there's like two sides to that argument, and also there's the third side of the argument where most of my questioning is targeted to specific kids, specific questions, which is good teaching. It's good assessment. And then, you know, I was talking to have a trainee teacher and I was like, look, I don't know if this is controversial or if this will blow up on Twitter. I don't know, but I don't have lolly sticks. You know, sometimes you have lolly sticks and it's like, who am I going to ask? Bob. You know, I didn't want to ask Bob the question I have in my head. So I'm just going to look at it. It says Bob, but I'm going to go, John.
I have a spinner in our new Arbor system, which has a classroom spinner. And I started by showing the kids the spinning names. But I do that. I put the spinner on sometimes. Other times I freeze it and go, oh, it's frozen on that one because I'm not that child because I'll be here tomorrow for. And you think I should ask them, but I know that they're a child who will freeze.
Yeah.
So I don't. But but that's what you figure out. You figure out what works for some, and you
Yeah.
know the pressure points of others. The worst thing ever in the world is for a teacher to ask a child to answer a question in front of the rest of those children, because the first thing they're going to do is going to go, I can't do it. And yeah, a skilled person can work around that and come back to them and say, think about that.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're creating anxiety with some of those kids, because that's a nightmare scenario for some, isn't it?
Takes away of like the individuality of the kids, you know?
The spontaneity.
And I bet teachers feel it, because I go on training sometimes. I remember a couple of years ago, I went on a 4-day maths training course, and like it started out with early years maths and key stage 1 maths, and I was like, okay, that's fine, yeah. And then we got to like year 5 maths, and I was like, oh my God, don't talk to me, please don't talk to me. So it's like we forget, and especially in insets, management forget. We just sit there for 3 hours, like, oh my God, please give me something I can use in class. And we forget that we're students sometimes still in our adult lives, and you forget.
It's a horrible feeling when you're asked a question you can't answer it yourself. Absolutely.
And when you're in a room full of teachers, I feel like it's worse.
Or you're pulled out. I can't do origami. Now you know I can't always follow basic instruction. I can't do IKEA furniture. Let's put it this way. Somebody gives me an IKEA bed, it turns into a wardrobe. All those little diagrams that show little screws going and everything else. Just can't. It's my worst nightmare. When I had Lego as a kid, I would build basically everything else but the thing it's meant to be. You know what I mean? I just don't know why my brains were hard that way. But we had this a couple of years ago in an inset, and our art teacher was doing origami, and I'm sitting there, she's folding it. Maybe ends up with a nice little rose, and I'm like, yeah, there's mine. And it's embarrassing because you're just going like, Brent, can you not do that? And I'm going, no. What did you fold? Would you? And yeah, you can ask me a question. What's the capital of Madagascar? And tell you it's Antananarivo. This is the thing. Our kids have so many different capabilities, and sometimes there's black holes in their skill set or their knowledge set. And some of what we're trying to do sometimes is cruel in a sense, because it accentuates and highlights some of the things. And then when I'm told you have to do an all hands up policy, and you think, do I really want to do it that way completely, or should I have just a variation of it? But that's the thing. But that's what we do, don't we? We adapt. We adapt what we're told to do, and we put our own little twist in it, and it becomes our version of it. And we should have that originality as teachers to do that. Yeah. But equally, sometimes I always was told the sage on the stage, you talk too much. The amount of times kids tell me, at the weekend it was amazing talking to some people like Ben Walsh, who's a top history book writer. One of the first things he says, tell stories. Tell stories. I think that's all I do is tell stories through history. And funny, that's what works. And I hear him say it, I'm going, oh God, thank God for that. I've been doing it all right for 20 years. But that's what we love your funny stories or your stories. And yet I do get people saying, oh, you talk too much. I'm thinking, no, look, the guy who's the guru of history says tell funny stories. Kids remember stories, so. But talking of too much, we'll move into our second story, which is going to be more your story about PPA. About taking PPA at home. Before we do that, shall we talk about our sponsors? Would you like to talk about our sponsors, or would you like me to talk about our sponsors? Shall I talk about our sponsors?
I think you did it so well the first time, Brent.
Oh, that's well played. I like what you did there. Positive reinforcement and praise works. Yeah, I like
that. We'll just choose you.
Yeah, this is this is why doing things good sometimes is a bad idea. So we're sponsored by Future and Careers. They provide a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging our 11 to 19-year-olds, that's Key Stage 3 up to Key Stage 5, in STEM and SHIP. And they help teachers to show their students what they can aim for and how to form articles from activity sheets, animations to podcasts, and all the resources aligned with the Gatsby benchmarks and are free to download. So that's futureandcareers.com, and you can subscribe to that. So that's bang up to date resources. Make your life easier. I like the idea of some animations to podcasts, because kids do like that. They love the animations in podcasts because they are, like ourselves, avid listeners to things like podcasts, including a lot of my pupils recently said, Mr. Poland, I've listened to your podcast, of which I'm like, oh gosh, which ones? Hopefully there's a good one. It's true. I'm having to go through my digital catalogue and think, maybe that's not a good one for them to listen to. And we're also sponsored by John Catt, and they're one of our long-term partners, and they publish professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. So you can level up your professional development, and you can visit them at johncat2tsbookshop.com. explore their full range of diverse titles. They've got everything in education, these guys. Brilliant publisher that publishes such a range of books across all different curriculums of different age groups. And I still get my email from them and see what they're currently sort of peddling, and it's always something very relevant. So that's John Cat Bookshop, and you can get them at 20% off with our code, which is JCTTR2425. So that's JCTTR2425. And we're also sponsored by Reading Solutions, very relevant to obviously our children's future. We need to read. They're the home of Dreambox Reading Plus. It's an online reading development program. Create stronger readers, which we definitely need in school, from Key Stage 2, which we definitely need, and beyond, right up to GCSE. Can't read, you can't answer questions, I suppose, and you can't do exams. So that's really, really important. They're evidence-based, they adapt to technology, and they are accurately assessing students' skills gaps, and then places them in a personalized learning pathway, which is individual to them, and that helps accelerate their strengths and improves on their areas of development. You can try the program for 4-week pilot today. I like when somebody says you get a 4-week pilot. Do you get that from which pilot we were flying to at level? A 4-week pilot. Means like Tom Cruise from Top Gun today. And research Reading Solutions UK for their website to request your free pilot. Personally, I'd like Maverick or Goose would be mine from Top Gun. Boom, boom.
Any pilot that'll take me to the beach. I'm not fussed who it is.
I love JBL's got in nutshell. Don't change, Brent. The way it works for you is always the best way to teach. Absolutely. Completely agree with that. You got to be authentic. You got to work with what you got to work with. And kids adapt. Kids adapt to teachers, don't they? They get used to you. They get to like it. And this idea that you as a teacher have to change. I think pupils are so malleable. Pupils are so flexible. They work right. I think they are able to sort of like the variation. One of the things that always worries me is if every teacher becomes corporate and the same. I mean, how boring would that be? Every lesson started the same, and every lesson has tick, tick, tick. I mean, God forbid they should ever do that. And I think some trusts are. I wouldn't last 5 minutes in those trusts.
Well, like in primary, there's schemes for everything. I think like some teachers are like, I don't want to teach anymore. I'll make a scheme. And so, you know, like talking about PPA, which we were like, that's what we're going to talk about next, is like, you know, oh, you guys have got a scheme. It's fine. It's easier. Well, not really, though, because like every child is different and every child in every school is different. So how does a scheme work across the board? And so it's like, you know, JBL is correct. Like, do it the way it works for you. And so the way I would teach something is not the way you would teach something, is not the way someone else would teach something, because we're all different. All our personalities are different. You know, I might want to do it one way and you might want to do it the other way. So it's like, even if I have a scheme and I'm sitting down, I still have to read through the scheme. The scheme for me still has to make sense in my head. So just because it makes sense to Mr. Smith, who wrote the scheme and has been teaching for however many years, doesn't mean it's going to make sense for me or work for my cohort. Or, you know, there's a lot of talk in primary. It dulled down a bit now. Was it cultural capital?
Yeah, the cultural capital. So just enriching their ability to, override their local areas. So it's confidence. Really, it's saying how confident are they in life, I suppose.
Leave it worldly.
Yeah, opportunities.
But the thing is, like, to be worldly, you have to start from where you are and work outwards. And so if the scheme's being made by someone, I don't know, in Edinburgh, and I live in London, how does that work with cultural capital?
No. So doesn't take local context, does it?
No. Yeah. Local context, socioeconomic of the local area. So especially like maths has gone that way quite a lot recently with like maths mastery, where you're meant to take the whole class with you on a journey. I find that a challenge, because if you're going to all go, let's like say in the simplest of terms, if you all go on a bus journey together, well, you get on at the same stop and you get off at the same stop. So a journey that you take together starts and ends really in the same places. So when they come out with all these schemes and you think, oh, so much easier, I'll just put the PowerPoint up for the scheme. I don't think I could teach like that. You know, I have to see what's coming, and you have to be like pre-prepared. Exactly, that too. Yeah. And I'm not a robot. Where's the fun? Where's the individuality?
No, I mean, some of the best lessons I've ever done, have been planned, but they've then taken on a life of their own. And I've come out with something, or the kids have come out with something. And I thought, you know what? what I've planned, just
Yeah.
gone.
Go
Where
down
I'm
this.
going now,
Yeah.
the journey, and it just takes on a life of its own. And equally, kids have sometimes realized they can get me sidetracked, but I sometimes allow myself to be sidetracked. I mean, who knew? But I've sometimes built the sidetracking into the lesson in my head, thinking, I know what I want them to. I know where I want them to go to ask the deeper questions. But that's the beauty of exploring your subject.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we're encouraged to do deeper thinking questions. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to do deeper thinking questions organically, not at the bottom of a slide going, here's my deeper thinking question. Now think deeply.
Yeah. If you finished your worksheet, now you can think deeply.
You have not finished task A. Now think deeply about task B. I mean, it should happen naturally, organic. Engineering that is never as fun as the time when the kids turn around and go, remember that time you did something silly, like started singing something, or the other day was like, pack up your troubles and your old kick bag and smile. I don't know why or where that came from. Before you knew it, I was singing How Do You Do, Willie McBride to him, which then had me going back to a photograph to me at the grave of that and said, right, let's just think. Kids come in the next lesson and go, sir, can you sing to us? And I'm going, oh.
No, don't get that in a scheme, do you?
What, teacher breaks into spontaneous World War I songs?
No, yeah.
Kids come back next lesson, have listened to some spontaneous One World War I songs, and now want me to sing more spontaneous One World War I songs.
Right.
Too.
That's awe and wonder. That's the awe and wonder. You don't get that from a scheme. Yeah, we did Victorians. I think I've said it on TTR before, and I walked into the classroom as Queen Victoria and did a Q&A with the kids.
I can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
You have got a classic Victoria look about you. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
I'm quite regal.
Could you do the one is not amused voice?
One is not amused.
Whereas I could do the street urchin Irish immigrant, could we give me a work there, sir? I'll shine your shoes there, sure. There you go. We could play our roles, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could, yeah. But in what scheme or what Twinkle worksheet does it say teacher to dress up as Queen Victoria? Like, you're never, come on, where are you going to get that in a scheme,
Crazy Irish teacher starts singing. It's a long way to do
it. Yeah, exactly. Irish verse. Irish song.
But that's it. I mean, that's you get with experience, but also love of your subject and passion. The amount of times you get people saying they want people with passion. They want people to love what they're doing. They want people to enjoy teaching. Kids get on the fact they see a person standing in front of them enjoying the lesson and enjoying the learning, as opposed to, we have 5 minutes left to finish this task, and by this task I want you to highlight that, and by the end of this task we need to have done this because we have to do this because it's really important, because I want somebody to look at my books. Look, your book's clean. You go, my God, what are we doing to these children? And we wonder why they're misbehaving, because they must be bored.
Bored, yeah. The girls came up to me afterwards when I became me again. It's like,
when you weren't in Victoria mode.
When I wasn't Victoria. Miss Lax, history is my new favourite subject. It's like, why? I didn't even think we did anything in their books, Brent. I just think I sat at the classroom and they asked me questions. I know, I don't tell anyone, it's shocking.
That does happen a lot
of times. Everything's in the books.
You think the kids, we've not done much writing today. Aha, you've not much done writing. Have you done some thinking? Have I made you think differently? Yes, sir. There you go. There's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Back in my mind was thinking, oh, in the next lesson I better get something in their books, because when somebody looks at my books, they're going to go, where is the retrieval task? Where is the deeper thinking question? Where is this?
It's meant to have changed, right? There was this whole thing like, often don't look at books anymore. It's not about that anymore. But it's like, is it? But then the other day we were doing history. You're like this. We were doing history. We're learning about knights. So how you became a knight, and then famous knights. And this one kid was just like, but what about this? But what about that? What about this? And eventually I was just like, I hate to say it, but we were running out of time because, yeah.
Wasn't that brilliant? When you get to that stage, when you think, I want to know more. I want to know more.
Love it.
Well, the generation of children we have access to all the knowledge of mankind in their fingertips. And yet they know so little.
You can't plan for that.
No, we've got to get them curious. We've got to get them thinking and learning for themselves, because we can't do it all.
The curiosity is one, yeah.
It is that curiosity. So let's go with PPA.
A scheme, are you? Like, pause for curiosity.
Pause for curiosity, ask a deeper thinking question, and randomly break into song while dressed as a
I
monk.
dressed as a monarch. Yeah. And then eventually I was like, I don't know, but go home and Google it. And I was like, I wonder if she will. And the next day she came in. No, the next history lesson. So it was a week later. And she went, Miss Lax, I looked up on YouTube how you become a knight. And I saw that the queen takes a sword and she puts it on. I was like, come to the
Do
front.
you
And
love that when you come back?
everyone.
I love the words, do you know, sir? And I go, here it comes. They have done some independent research and they've thought about it. Or equally, when I've done some Socratic rants and the parent have said something controversial and they've gone back to the parents, well, my daddy says, oh, did you have a conversation with dad about history? And it gets great when you get the parents saying, I don't know if I like what you're teaching my child sometimes. What do you mean your child has gone home and had a conversation about their learning? It's better when you used to get, what'd you do at school today? Nothing.
Yeah.
Now they're coming home and asking questions of you, which is great.
Yeah,
and usually they understand what I'm trying to do. You know, they get it. I'm trying to create that narrative, trying to get the juices flowing, but it does generate the odd sort of like, Henry VIII had 6 wives. No, he had 2 wives. Technically 2 wives. You trying to change history? Absolutely. I don't like people who try and change history. Oh, that's interesting. The word history has the word story in it. You know that. And stories can be changed. And that's just getting that having the confidence to do it, and also sometimes having the bravery, but also support. It comes back to support. I'm supported. I get support. And I'm allowed to do that to a certain extent as long as I don't do something completely crazy.
You need the support.
Crazy, but more crazy than crazy.
Able to like veer off a scheme. And I think some schools give it, and I do think some schools don't. But you need to be confident enough and like comfortable enough in your practice to be like, okay, this is the scheme. Yeah, okay, it works for me. I like the structure. And I'm going to go like this, and then a bit like this, and then I'll go like this, and then I'll go back, you know?
And last Saturday at that teach meet was literally that. That's why I'm still buzzing from that, because you're in a room with people going, let's do women's Jewish resistance. Let's talk about women abolitionists. Let's look at this part of history that's not taught. You know, and you saw people who, you know, let's talk about classical history. It was amazing to see people looking in a mirror and going, that's a version of me looking at something different. Great. But then you realize that's the converted, isn't it? They're the people who are doing it for that intrinsic reason. And then the drama, then the horrible thing comes, well, how many schools don't have a person like that? Because they're told, this is your scheme of work. This is how you're going to teach it. And we'll check that you're doing that job. And you aren't given any autonomy, independence, or freedom to express. Because the thing I enjoy the most about being a teacher is that autonomy, that freedom to express myself, to see the children learn, and to sometimes, you know, take a little bit of a risk and then see that pay off. And it doesn't just pay off, you know, 6 months down the line. It may take years. I spoke to an ex-pupil tonight, and he told me his journey. Left school, joined the army, you know, did all these sort of jobs, and now he's working as an engineer. And I went, wow. What a great story. And he says, I never forgot the lessons I learned at school. And it was a long journey. He's in his early 30s now. But he got there. And I thought, well, you got there because, you know, you kept going, you kept that. And he says, yeah, but I remember that's why I want my kid to go to this school, because I remembered some of the lessons you guys taught me. And I think, but you don't know the seeds you plant, do you? You really have no idea the depth of those seeds and whether they don't blossom straight away. It can take years for them to blossom, if they ever do. And some bloom quickly, and then some take 15 years. So we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left to talk PPA.
And my first quote is there enough time for PPA? No, there is never enough time.
What if you want to start dressing up with Queen Victoria?
Yeah, that was quite a quick lesson, actually. Yeah, there was no PowerPoint, no lesson plan.
So there's the trick to it. Just
don't plan your lesson and don't make a PowerPoint, and you have enough PPA time.
Just wing your lessons for the rest.
That is our moral of tonight.
Just basically, you know what? I'm going to stand in front of the kids for an hour and just wing it.
Yeah, dressed up.
I mean, who's going to admit that they've done that? Come on, who's going to admit that there are times you just go, you know what? I haven't completely planned this lesson, but I'm going to delve into the depths of my own.
The best lessons.
Yeah, they are.
Look at it, I'm like, I don't want to do it this way. I'm just going to, we're going to do it completely different, guys. Or what happens all the time? You sit, you plan all your lessons, you go to teach it, and the board turns off.
Or the photocopier is broken. You can't get the photocopier.
Year 6 are printing stats papers. Yeah. So I must be honest, I have a little secret. I quite enjoy it when the board turns off because I'm like, great, I'll just use the whiteboard. I actually, yeah, I prefer it. I was telling a year 6 kid a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I was like, do you know when I was in school, we didn't have interactive whiteboards. We had a chalkboard and a whiteboard and you would roll it. Honestly, I think he thought I was joking. I don't think I actually convinced him. So back then, no computer, right? No laptop, no Google.
Nope.
No schemes.
A textbook, acetate.
Yeah, acetate, OHP.
OHP.
Yeah. Didn't sit for hours.
Upside down. OHP roll.
Yeah, finding PDFs, finding YouTube video. No. And
having a floppy disk with one power. I had a floppy disk.
Yeah, floppy disk.
I was sitting with one PowerPoint on it from 2002. I can only store one couple of slides.
That's all. Yeah.
It was cutting edge. And of course, wheeling the television. I used to have a television, and it was kind of like television and VCR combo. Yes, let's bring in David Attenborough for a geography lesson.
Yeah. So that was my biggest thing. Is it enough? No, it's never enough. But then teacher tap, and also, right, the government are thinking, let's let teachers do PPA at home, and that will convince people to become teachers. Never mind challenging behaviour, not enough time, the curriculum is too big. We'll just let them do PPA at home. I actually don't think that's such a great thing, because when I do my PPA, I make things and then I'd print. And so by the end of PPA, majority, not all, because never going to be all, majority of my work is printed for the week. But if I'm at home, I won't be able to do that. And I feel a bit like actually I'd be missing a piece of my productivity in my PPA. So, however, one of the options was a well-being day, a day off during term time. That I am up for if, but this is the if, right? If the cover is effective, because otherwise, as we all know, all of you that are watching will know, like a sick day, right? You come back the next day and it's like, I did it once. I came back the next day and there was like papers all over my desk. And I was like, what is this? It was maths. I think it was fractions. And I went to the kids, like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, we don't know. So that is a good idea, like a duvet day. I think they do that in business firms, in companies.
I change my computer settings. They mess around with my chair. The room is filthy.
Yeah.
You know, like, get out of my classroom, whoever you've been in my classroom. The glue sticks are basically half on the ceiling, stuck to the ceiling, because somebody's been lobbing them up in the air, playing that game of, let's see, can the glue stick this.
Yeah.
Has there been a war in my classroom in the day that I've been off?
And then your TA's like, this one was terrible and that one was terrible. So you relaxed for a day and you came back and your stress went, because everyone's like, this happened and that happened and this didn't happen and this didn't happen. Okay, yeah. I just won't take the day off.
And you have a situation where if you're not ill, I mean, this is borderline ridiculous. So you ring into your employer at 7 a.m. in the morning on a day you're not well, and you email your lessons because you've just manufactured them from... And it's more, honest to goodness, it's the only profession where you don't get to be ill. When you're ill, you dread being ill because you know the amount of ridiculousness you get. And the thing is, I get the idea of PPA at home might suit some people, but I like degrees of separation. I stay late at school because I want to keep schoolwork at school and home. I want to take as little as home as possible. Gone are the days I want to sit there and say to my children, hi, Daddy, come and play with me. Oh, sorry, I've got some marking to do. And I'm terrible for one of those people that puts the marking in the back of the car, takes it for a spin, and then takes it back the next morning.
Oh, I've done that.
Well, I can't do it.
Into my flat, Brent. I've got one further than you. Taking it in, sat it next to the couch. It's watched TV with me, and then it's gone back into the car the next day.
And you feel flipping guilty for it. You think, why did I take that marking home in the first place? Why can't I get done? Because that's the thing. School should be, do your work at school. Your home, same as emails, phone calls. Keep school out of home for me.
That was like lockdown. I would close when we did online learning, I would close my laptop at the end of the day, put it in a box and put the box under the table.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you see it and you're reminded of it. And yes, there has to be a break.
Yeah. For me, that sounds a bit too like tokenism. We've given you PPAs at home. No, you're not going to take them. And we know it's not going to follow through, but we've done that. It's kind of like, now we've got teachers planning preparation at home. The practicality of it is how many will take it up, how many trusts or how many schools will say have a PPA at home. They won't.
Because the flip side is, when I had this before, no, we need you in school because otherwise there's not enough staff in the building.
There was that too as well. But also you'd want to be in the building because you say your computer's in the building, your computer systems, the photocopying's in there. So how much PPA can you do at home?
I don't think so.
Versus how efficient you'd be at school, if that makes sense.
Or you want to go look at a book and check what they did last week, or you want to go put a display up even.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's the best offer.
I think there's certainly would suit some, but I think already those people are probably people who are already on part-time. I think all those people who might take PPA at home have already got systems in place, if that makes sense, because there's a lot more people now doing 3 and 4 days. I even noticed a definite pattern of people saying, I'm going to reduce and do 1 day, because I know some of my colleagues, what they'll do is they'll take 4 days. They'll say, I'm down to 4 days. They'll take 1 day where they do all their school and then they get their weekend. And that's what's happening a lot more. The people are saying, I'm going to take 1 day. I'm going to go down to 0.8 or 0.6. And then I'm going to spend 1 day getting all my schoolwork done, my marking done, all that stuff done. And then they don't have it. So there is people already kind of doing those type of things to buy themselves that time, because at the weekend I take half my Sunday in that schoolwork and I hate doing it. But I'm 5 hours, five periods, in some days, and I don't want to take the work home during the week. So I do store it up for Sunday. And I think a lot of my colleagues are in that scenario where they end up doing something over the weekend because it's either do something over the weekend or take it home during the week. And when you're doing 5 period days, you come home, as you say, your evening, it's hard to restart. I find it hard to restart in the evenings.
I'm exhausted by the evening as well. My brain slows down, actually. So at least on a Sunday, especially in primary, you're teaching the whole day, and then most of the primary teachers have a subject that they lead as well. So you're teaching the whole day, and then at the end of the day you're marking, and then in the morning you're prepping and you're getting a bit of extra, stuff ready. So you do need to find time somewhere to do a bit of your subject, your TLR work or your subject work, and you can't always find it during the week.
Primary is more intense physically in a sense that you are more on call. I mean, when the kids get older, you can leave them sometimes 15, 20 minutes and get on with the task. I don't think you get that in primary as much, do you? It's more intense, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's more need, isn't it? There's definitely more. I mean, I get the difference between Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. My GCSE group sometimes can give them 25 minutes task and say, right, here's some exam questions. And I'll go around and monitor them. But there are times in my lessons where there is lulls. Year 7's not like that. Year 7's definitely. If I look at the difference between year 7, year 8 versus year 10 and year 11, it gives me a window. The year 7s give me a window into primary school of how demanding some of the children are because they don't have the same independence. And that shows me that how dependent they are of the teacher, which, and in respect to primary school teachers, I think you've got a certain amount of energy that we in secondary have different set of issues. Marking's different, and of course the subject's different. But you are you've got the same children for multiple subjects. That's a difficult discipline. That's really difficult. You've got to be in every person, don't you? And there's just naturally things that you'll be easier at than not. So I have full respect to primary. Part of me would like to be a primary school teacher for that, because as a teacher, I do teach multiple subjects. So I've got a little bit of that in me. But it's hard when you're going from one thing into another and you've got the same kids sitting in front of you. At least we get a fresh set of kids. Even if we switch subject, you get a fresh set of kids and a fresh start, whereas there's no hiding place in primary school, is there?
No, I don't have a cupboard in my classroom to hide in. No. Unfortunately.
You mean you don't have a choky?
No.
Every classroom needs a choky.
Just a book corner.
Which hopefully, how is that book corner? I know the book corner was getting a little bit of damage. Is it okay now? The book corner, are we okay now? Are they all playing nice with the book corner?
Book corner is cozy. Book corner has books. It is. Yeah, we are. Yeah, getting there. The dog is looked after.
Soft cushion.
Yeah. Talking about charity shops, a couple of years ago, I went into a charity shop and there was a dog. You can't see it because my screen is too small. I think it's about like this big, and there was a dog, and then there was this like big teddy, and I was like, I'll take both of these, and the woman was like, thank you, it's been taking up so much space.
Did you tell them to go into a school?
Yeah.
You know, 30 dogs are what people buy now, not big giant fluffy ones.
I do. I just want to tell my brother who has a dog, I do children, not animals.
They say there's not much difference between them, to be honest. But as I often think, if we can train animals, I don't know why we can't train children, which is very slant, isn't it? Sit up straight, good boy. You know, it sounds very behaviorist, doesn't it? Kind of like Pavlov's dogs, you know.
Maybe we need to be able to give treats out in school.
But that's another thing. We used to do that. We did not give chocolate to children. But that was another one. It was like Killjoys come along. It did not give chocolate treats to children. Well done, class. You've won a chocolate bar now. You know. Oh, we can't do that. But something. I mean, but we used to, didn't we?
School.
Oh God, yeah.
Have a strawberry.
Now you'd be like, you know, I'm giving you a chocolate bar. By the way, has anybody got 16 allergies for that chocolate bar? Oh, health and safety police are going to arrest me for that. But we used to do that. We didn't.
My magnifying glass. Hang on.
This product may contain nuts. Oh, there's that one. I mean, yeah. Have a, you know, and now you probably get, you know, is it a vegan triple whammy? You know, you go, sir, the wrapper's not biodegradable. You start handing the chocolate bar, right? And you've got the wrapper's not biodegradable. You've got people with allergies. You've got parents saying my child's healthy eating's been discouraged. You'd be like a whole lot of raft of complaints about going, I just want to give your child a chocolate bar. Why do you want to give my child a chocolate bar? I want to reward them. We don't believe in that. I mean, you know, mindful.
Brent.
What?
It says on the scheme I can do it.
Oh, it does. What scheme?
We're teaching sharing in maths. I did that once in a maths lesson. I was doing subtraction, and so I brought cereal, and on the visualizer, I was like, right, I have 5, take away 3. So I have 5. I'm a little bit hungry. I'm going to take away 3. Okay. All right.
That's like the old Jaffa Cake advert, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Half moon. Full moon. Half moon. The planets today using Jaffa Cakes. You're not getting any because it's full eclipse. Eclipse.
I'm going to show you. Just going to model it, and then you'll draw a picture.
Yeah. Jaffa Cakes, love them. I can't. Once they get open, they're done. They are toast. They're getting smaller. Have you noticed Jaffa Cakes getting smaller?
Right.
I think on that bombshell, we probably need to wrap this up. I'm talking the size of Jaffa Cakes. Put them in the same category as getting smaller Q eggs. Let's be honest with that.
We're going to need a visual on that next week.
I think we need a graph on that, don't we? The size of Jaffa Cakes relative to. We'll put that under inflation. We'll put that with the 9. We'll put that with the student loans, the property prices, the recruitment retention problem, the staff biscuits. Just the quality of the staff biscuits have declined. No wonder teaching professions in trouble when the Jaffa Cakes are getting smaller, aren't they? And they're geting more expensive. And let's not get started on the fact that now you can't bring in some chocolate biscuits without people going, sorry, I wanted that. You know, gone are the days when you used to be able to bring in stuff like that, and now you get like, oh yeah, there's a joy going out of it.
I got a cake into school today, and I put it in the staff room at lunchtime. It was finished by 3 o'clock. There's no dieting in our schools.
Well, that's a good sign, isn't it? There's no the Garrets were in then, were they? I
was like, if you don't want cake by Thursday, are you okay?
But that's a good sign of a good staff room when the cake gets, you know, we had muffins. So I brought through. I'm the muffin man. You want to say, have you seen the muffin man? So the senior manager comes to me and says, right, need your muscles. Can you lift all the muffins and the cans of pop? So I lift the muffins and the cans of pop. Of course, setting aside the white chocolate muffin for me. The white chocolate. They do it all the time. Why do they get the deep chocolate ones when most people like the white chocolate? Of course, the first thing that happens is nobody in the staff room. 5 minutes later, it's like a scene out of The Birds. It's basically like Hitchcock. Who's the white chocolate one? The white chocolate ones went within 5 minutes. It's like every time I'm telling you.
How'd you get a white chocolate muffin? I need to come to your school for parents.
Oh man, they're awesome. White chocolate muffin with jam on the inside, and then you've got blueberry muffin, classic, and then we have the chocolate muffin. So in ranking order, the white chocolate goes first, then it's the blueberry, and then the deep chocolate goes next. But in that ranking order, that's how they go. But every time they order the muffins, and go, thanks for the muffins. Can you order more of the white chocolate ones? You go like, why? He goes, look, more people like the white chocolate ones. Order more of the white chocolate ones. So look, in disparaging, I go, there are more chocolate ones than white chocolate ones. I'm just going to leave my little white chocolate one over there, and I'll have that later. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was my price for taking in the muffins. Yeah. I reserved my white chocolate muffin. They're really nice. They're like milk, you know, the Milky Bar ones.
Like with the goo in the middle. That's like the ones in the Olympic Village that they went crazy for, right? In the Olympic Village, the chocolate muffins.
Yeah. So I think we've I think I've had 40 minutes. I think we've been loose tonight, haven't we, Leanne? We've been fully loaded and running with it. And I
Started
think,
with suspension and we ended on muffins.
I think I've had 40 many coffees in my new Teachers Talk Radio mug, and I've reached that sort of crash now. I'm just about to crash, so I'll probably just go. And you really get that after parents' evenings. The next day, you get that the voice because you performed. Yeah. It's been a good night, and thank you for stepping in from Adam. Adam will be back next week, and obviously, thank you to our sponsors. I think we're going to play out with a video of our sponsors. We've got Future Careers, we've got John Catt, and we've got who's our other sponsor, that is Reading Solutions as well. So thanks very much to them. Obviously, Teachers Talk Radio is we're volunteers in the sense we are ordinary teachers like everybody else. But we're always looking for hosts, aren't we? And what I always say, to join the hive mind, which is the crazy world of Teachers Talk Radio. Please listen back to us. We've got a show at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning is our next show. We've got nothing on the other side, and watch out for the weekly review, of course, on Sunday, and that's where we look at the stories. And I think weekly review will probably have a good look at the Labour conference. Quite a lot of good things coming out of the Labour conference, which need a really deep dive into. Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, please tell me off. I did not do the words deep dive. Shame and disgrace. Stop adopting the. Got to stop adopting this language that people talk about. It's like
you also. When you were looking for a school for your daughter, you looked at the Ofsted report. I was going to bring it up, but I thought I'd leave it to the end, Brent.
I know, that was naughty of me. No, I looked at it to merely get a feel, but to be honest with you, the best thing to do was go into the school. But yeah, I did. Because curiously, I just wanted to know and compare them. But I didn't look at the grades. I looked at small.
You read it?
No, look, I really did. I looked at the pastoral, because the thing I look for is the pastoral care. Were the kids, are the kids a number, or are the kids a person?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was the thing they did. But as a parent, it's interesting. As a parent, you do, don't you? You have a read of the report. Same as when you're looking for a job interview in a school. Yeah. You do have a read of the Ofsted report, but you read through all the, don't you? You don't just look at the
words to get to the paragraphs, actually.
And you read between the lines on some of the stuff, and you think, "Ooh, what's and that's maybe the value of the old style ones when they came with a lot more actual detail and give you a lot more of the story, because I think that's the real thing about a good Ofsted report should be the story of the school, not just the headline, good, outstanding, etc. I think that's where it got lost in the minutiae. But you're right, that's a bit hypocritical of me to have read an Ofsted report before I sent my daughter to school. But we based the judgment on the visit, not the Ofsted report. So
don't tell Tom Rogers.
Shh.
We'll edit this bit, guys.
I'm happy. I got my mug after all. Because it did turn around and the weekend you had to say a funny tweet to get it. And what was really interesting was there was a lot of carrot cake coming towards Tom. And he had 2 big slices of carrot cake, and I went, that's quite ironic that carrot cake is being eaten by Tom at the moment. Right. But he just couldn't keep his face straight. He's looking at me going like, what? That's carrot cake. Come out my mug.
Even if you read Ofsted reports, you can be a TTR host.
Come and join the hive mind that is Teacher Talk Radio. You get the freedom to express yourself. We don't really have a script, do we?
No.
We're not corporate, and you have the freedom to express yourself without somebody overlooking you.
No teleprompters here.
Are we playing the video now?
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. John Catt have an exceptional collection of book titles that cover a range of educational topics, ideas and research. The books are aimed at forward-thinking schools and support best practice teaching for both primary and secondary education. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
How can you show your students the opportunities that await them? How can you fuel their aspirations and motivate them to achieve? Futurum Careers provides a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging 14 to 19-year-olds to pursue careers in STEM and SHAPE. we help you to show your students what they can aim for and how. From articles to activity sheets, animations to podcasts, all our resources align with Gatsby benchmarks and are free for you and your students to download. Visit futurumcareers.com and subscribe today. Futurum Careers, helping teachers to inspire the next generation.
Introducing Reading Solutions UK, home to Dreambox Reading Plus, the online reading development programme, improving outcomes for students and schools nationwide. Create stronger readers in your school from Key Stage 2 to beyond GCSE, using Reading Plus's evidence-based adaptive technology. Reading Plus accurately assesses your students' skills gaps and places them on a personalised learning pathway, built to accelerate their strengths and improve on their areas for development. You can try the programme with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot today.
Full of outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused